Hello grade 10s, I hope that you're all well. We've taken a bit of a skip on the mechanical section and I've decided to move on to the isometric drawing section. Isometric drawings have got some notes here starting on page 51 in your textbook. This obviously relates to your first diagram or the first page in your workbooks, the worksheet 1, where they've given you all these diagrams and they've asked you to copy those shapes. Just remembering that information through here. So isometric drawings fall under the pictorial drawing, meaning that you can see in the one view in the drawing, you can see all three of the dimensions. Here are the isometric axis with the isometric lines. I often call where it says width there, I call that the length, and where it says depth there, I call that the width. So that was something that we covered in grade 9 last year. Very importantly here, they talk about non-isometric lines. So any line that is not on a 30-degree angle or vertical is a non-isometric line, and what happens is that that measurement changes. So you can't take the measurement off the drawing or the dimension and use it, or the angle to use that. What you have to do is find a start point and an end point using the isometric lines and then join those points up. This is where you're going to eventually head to, where they're going to give you some type of geometric shape, for example this hexagon, and how you needed to transfer that into your isometric drawing. I remember doing these with you last year for the drawing of the block in isometric that we did last year. Today I'm going to do some of the drawings from task 2, where they've asked you to copy one from each row onto your worksheet. What you're going to need is your drawing board, your T-square, and your 30-degree set square. So I have my pencil, I've got my T-square. Now remember, with your T-square you need to make sure that your T-square is up against the edge of your board so that it's always going to give you that right angle. Then your 30-degree set square. So this is going to draw any 30-degree lines that are sloping up towards the right hand side, and we can flip it around and that will give us any 30-degree lines going across at an angle. Now what they're trying to test in this drawing is your understanding of drawing sloping lines, which the term is a non-isometric line in your drawings. The first task all had isometric lines. So if it was a horizontal line in the front or left views, it became a 30-degree line. Now we can use the actual measurement off there to get the points, but you can't do that once we've got these chamfers where it is at a slope. We have to then find the start point and the end point. I'm going to start by looking at drawing number 1 in this top row and going through that drawing. My first step I would probably look at is just working out the measurements. So I've got a length of 6 blocks, a height of 6 blocks, and a width of 6 blocks. Remember, they asked you that one block is going to be 10 millimeters, so that's going to make my shape a square of 60. I'm going to just try and put it over here so that it stays close to the diagram. My first step now, when we draw in isometric, is we try and draw construction lines. So all your line work should be light lines to start with. This is because we don't know what is going to become permanent and hence a dark line. So when you do your drawing, you try and do your drawing in a light line first. So this should be a light line, a construction line. I obviously make it dark because you need to be able to see that. So I've started with what I refer to as the isometric axis, which is the lowest point where all three of the dimensions meet. I'm now going to mark off my measurements on the axis. I've marked off my measurements, so on this side I've marked off 40 and then a 20, which is going to be that 40 and then this 20. My height, I've marked off the height of 20 and then the remaining distance of 40. And in the left view, I've marked off 3 measurements of 20. Now if we draw those lines in, I don't usually like flipping my set squares like this because they often have a bevel on them and the line then goes a bit skew. So there we've got the outline on the edge of the shape, and we can now take the lines from the corners and project them across, and on this side we can take them from the corners and project them as well. So I'm going to project the corners from the front view now. Should line up with that one. Now that's giving us a lot of the outline of that shape, and the only thing we really now need to do is join the start point to the end point of the slope. So I'm going to start going over that in an outline now. And there we have the end of that drawing number 1 for this top row. I'm going to stick with the top row and go with my next drawing, also number 1 in the second row. So what I'm starting by doing is just marking off some of the measurements there before I get started. So I'm happy I understand what the measurements are going to be that I need. And then I'm starting with the isometric axis. I've got the isometric axis, and then I want to mark off my measurements that I'm going to need. So if I'm coming towards the left view, on this left line I needed a measurement of 40 and 20. There's 40 and 20. For my height dimension, I need a 20 and a 40. 20, 40. For my length dimension, I need 3 measurements of 20. So there's 20, 20, and 20. Now draw in those lines. Remember, these would be construction lines or light lines. You don't want them to be too dark in case you make a mistake and you have to erase them. I've got now what is sort of the outline of my shape, and what I want to do now is project from my corners on my front view side and from the corners on my left view side to get the points. So if I'm taking the different corners that I'm going to see now and just project them towards the other view, these should line up because they're all on us measurements of 20 and 40. So they're all my points projected from my front view side. Now from the left view side, and in that shape I've got the answer that I need here. So I'm going to just go over that in my dark lines. Remember that slope starts at this point and finishes at this point. My slope starts at this point and finishes on this point. So I'm not actually measuring anything off this slope. Now you'll notice what I'm trying to do here is also just see if anything lines up. So while I had my 30-degree set square there, that point lined up and that point lined up, so I could do them at the same time. And I'm trying to be systematic, so here are all the vertical lines that I'm going to need, and then I'll do all the vertical lines at the same time and not jump around and change to the specific point that I need. I think it saves time. Now my slope joining the start point to the end point. And there you have your drawing from the second row. I'm going to go on to my drawing from the third row. I obviously haven't left enough space here, and I'm going to try and do it over here. I'm going to stick with block or drawing number 1. Once again, let's just check the measurements. I think are all 60. So there is the measurement that I need for that drawing. My next step is to draw my isometric axis, which is that vertical line with my two 30-degree lines going off there. We're going to mark off the different measurements that I need now. So going here towards the front view, I've got a distance of 40 and 20. My height was 20 and 40. And in the left view, we've got the 3 measurements of 20. I'm going to draw those in now. There I've projected my dimensions. Now what I want to do is project from the corners to the other view. So here's my front view, where corners are projected towards the left view, and for the remaining corners. From your left view, take your points and then project them towards your front view. And in this shape now, we've got everything that we're going to need for this, and I'm going to go over it in a dark line. The last real change would just be joining the start point of our slope to the end point of the slope. So let me start with those two. There's a start point, there's an end point, and we would join those two up. There's an end point, here's the start point, and join the slope up like that. Follow your process, so whether you need to do your vertical lines to start with, try and go through all your vertical lines that you'll need first. Then you can put in your 30-degree lines that you'll need. Degree lines going the other way. And there is the completed drawing number 1. You can see all the hexagonal shapes coming out here because the sizes match. And that is the end of worksheet 2 on page 58 of your workbooks.